Hey everyone, I'm Kyle Racky and this is the Proposify Biz Chat. On today's show, I'm interviewing Mike McGrail. He's a digital marketing expert based out of Scotland, and he's going to be telling us why you need to be experimenting with paid social media, even if you're an inbound marketer, and what qualities and soft skills to look for when hiring marketers on your team. Hey everyone, I'm Kyle Racky and I'm here talking with Mike McGrail. He is based out of Scotland and he runs a company called Velocity Digital. They're a digital marketing consultancy. Mike is an expert on marketing and he's spoken at numerous events. You've probably heard of the Turing Festival. He's spoken at that with Rand Fishkin and some other great people. We're really excited to have Mike on the show today. Welcome to the podcast, Mike.
Hi, thanks very much for having me on.
I've read in your bio that it's a little known fact that you've invented trees, horses, and teeth.
Yeah, I'm glad to have brought those three things to the world. I think they're very useful. I don't like to brag about it too much, but I'm sure we can all agree that they're pretty good inventions.
They've taken us a long way. That's pretty awesome. So after you went from trees, horses, and teeth, you then moved on to digital marketing. So that's what you're up to.
Yeah, for 10, nearly 11 years I've been in marketing, and 90% of that has been focused on digital. When I came out of university, I had a job that was very varied, but very quickly, rapidly, everything was starting to become digital, and that's where I wanted to zero in on. And particularly in the early days, social media, I saw that as a great opportunity, and I really pushed myself to learn as much as I could about that so that I could work with clients at that point in time through the agencies I was working for to introduce them to social. Because everything back then, a lot of it was, of course, SEO, but everything else, it was either email or Google AdWords.
Yeah.
So to get that knowledge of social and start testing out a bit was a huge advantage.
I know sometimes it feels like social's been around a long time, and it kind of has, but I remember 2009, 2010, that was around when I had started my agency, and I think Twitter had just come out, Facebook had been out a couple of years, and brands were just still trying to figure out, should I have a Twitter account?
Yeah.
It hasn't really been that long.
No, it's not. And I first started using social for brands in 2007. So that was MySpace and Bebo. I don't know if Bebo was a big hit in North America, but it was here. And actually, it was a great platform. It was really flexible. So very early on, I was doing that type of work. And I mean, social media is kind of one of the first things that was ever on the internet, if you think about forums and news groups. But it wasn't until, not even MySpace and Bebo, it wasn't until Facebook hit us and Twitter hit us where marketers like me started going, oh yeah, we can get to people with this, so we're going to do what marketers tend to do and try and take it over.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still relatively young in the grand scheme of things, but in that time, even since 2008, 9, 10, it's changed in so many ways from a marketing perspective, but also in our day-to-day lives as non-marketers, non-business people. It's just such a key part of how we all live these days.
One thing that we should talk about is there's a lot of things that people do that they know they should be doing for their business to market themselves online. They know they should have an email list. They know they should have a blog. There's all just sort of almost like chores or tasks that you should be doing. But you've spoken a lot and you've written a lot about kind of the not that it's non-traditional, but it's just sort of how to take it up a notch, take it to the next level. Let's talk through some of those. So one of the things that you've spoken about is the need to have paid marketing. Why is that so essential if you're a company that is primarily inbound and that's what you believe in is just content, social media? Why do you also need to jump into the paid world?
The fact is that now it can be very, very hard to amplify your content. So if we go back to social media, even 3 or 4 years ago, with the right approach, the right work, the right content, and a lot of time and ideas, you could use things like Facebook and Twitter in an organic way, i.e. non-paid, to really get your content out there, to connect with the right people, to build an engaged audience. However, over time, reach has been dramatically reduced. Now, Facebook, the average reach of an organic post on your business page is around 2.5%. Whereas it used to range between 55 to 60%. So you could get good results. You could drive people to the content. You could get the engagement you needed. But Facebook obviously is a money-making machine. They've got an incredibly effective ad model when used properly. So they started to say, look, there's two things here. We don't want all these companies just getting a free ride, but also they still do believe in delivering the best possible experience within the news feed, so they say, to us general users of Facebook. So that's why they started to stifle it. Then if you take Twitter, for example, these are only two examples of platforms. It's just so busy. The popularity of it's going down. There's a lot of spam. There's a lot of nasty stuff goes on in there. So paid offers these companies the opportunity to build it into part of their inbound kind of methodology, but just don't disregard it. And it goes way beyond just taking out an ad and targeting a blog post or an ebook or a video to the right people through likes of Facebook targeting. You have to then think about the other parts that social media can play. So you mentioned quite rightly that most companies realize they need to have an email list, but they'll only see that email list as a kind of one-trick pony. They plug it into an emailing system. It may be automated, it may not. It may be part of a tool like a HubSpot, and they will periodically email people offers or content or whatever. But that can go so much further. So you can take that email list and you can insert that into Facebook and Twitter and even LinkedIn now, and start to target those people who are in your email list through the social networks. So you're creating more of those impressions, more of those touch points. But that doesn't mean it's a license just to bombard people. You have to always be adding value. And of course, a big part of the inbound methodology sits with that. Give them value, build the trust. It's not, the free ride is over, so to speak. So we have to think about paid, and not just within social media. Actually, we need to still think about how important is the likes of the Google network, Google AdWords. You need to own your brand name on Google for a start, the bare minimum. And organic SEO can be very difficult, even to do that for your own name. Not so much if you're a new company and it's a brand name that's a bit different, but even for established companies, you need to protect your brand name on Google. One of the best ways to do that is to make sure you're bidding on your brand terms, own those. However, it's interesting over the years because, for example, cost per conversion or cost per click on Facebook now tends to be around 40 to 50% cheaper than a click or a conversion through Google AdWords.
Yeah.
So one thing you have to do is test and test and test and make sure you're getting the most for your budgets. You don't have to start huge. You test different ads, different targeting, different platforms, and you take it from there.
Google AdWords used to be the de facto standard when it came to paid advertising. And really, I've found in the last year, it's become more and more digital marketers and people who are doing this every day for their clients are saying, it's overpriced. You just can't get the cheap clicks anymore. Do you see, knowing that that's Google's bread and butter, that's how Google makes their money, do you see them changing that anytime soon and making it and trying to compete a little bit more with Facebook?
I think they must be worried about Facebook, but I think the user base for AdWords is still so huge that they won't be hitting the panic button yet. I think from a features perspective, though, Facebook is far, far better for me in terms of the targeting, the ad units you can use, videos, carousels, lead forms. It offers far more in general as far as I'm concerned. Now, I don't do a ton of AdWords work anymore. I actually do try and push velocity clients down the social route, apart from the kind of critical things like brand name, because we're just seeing over time the effectiveness of the AdWords dropping and the cost going up. So yeah, they're going to have to really improve that, I think. Now, it's a hugely complex area, AdWords, and everything else the Google Ad Network offers. So you really need to be an expert in it to offer the best advice and to get the most out of it. You can waste a lot of money there, whereas sitting down in front of the Facebook Ad Manager, for example, you can quite quickly get used to using that well. And there's a ton of great documentation out there. Even Facebook's Blueprint, the name of their online free training, is a really great program to grow through. So we can't rule AdWords out, but I think they must be starting to think we've got to really sort this out.
And do you think other search networks, i.e. Bing, are worth it at all to even look at, or is the audience just too small?
It's interesting. So in the UK, Bing has about 15 to 20% of the market. So that's not something you should be ruling out. And actually, even, North America, Europe, whatever it may be, you can get some, what I would term, nice low-hanging fruit there. So there's some terms that you can go to Bing that people are searching for, and you can make sure that you're present for those. So it's worth experimenting with. People are too quick to rule it out, when I think that actually there's opportunities there. You've just also got to watch that you don't spread yourself too thin. Budgets can only go so far, time can only go so far, ideas can only go so far. So people should never be tempted to be everywhere all at once. I think you're better chunking out things and testing instead of just having, I think marketers over the years, because we've got so many tools and technologies available to us, get into a bit of a panic mode and think we have to be everywhere at once. Only if you can do them all well. That's got to be key, because you can end up just wasting time and not getting the results that your company needs or your clients need.
Yeah, and maybe you could take 10% of that budget or even 5% and kind of play in this new channel or this obscure or this lesser known channel. But then if you find you're just dumping money and it's not going anywhere, I mean, that's a great thing. You can measure all this stuff. You can see what it's doing for you.
That said, there's no hiding. The data is the data. And that's a great thing for marketers, but it's a bad thing for some marketers who have been hiding for years behind, marketing is really hard to measure. Well, everything digital should be measured.
Yeah.
You're ranging from, kind of soft metrics, things like likes and comments and followers. They're important, but really you want to be tracking the effect on the business. So at the high level, how many web hits or sessions are we getting from this activity? That's pretty soft, but it's from there onwards. How many inquiries, how many forms, how many downloads of content were generated by everything? It needs to be mapped out, nicely reported, and actually we can all gather data, we can all make pretty graphs, but it's being able to make decisions on that data that affect the success of the marketing and the company. Like the tools, we've all got a ton of data at our fingertips, so it can get a bit crazy when people just throw too much data at you without any options on how to make it work.
I still remember, like, maybe it was 6 years ago or so, when a lot of agencies still didn't have this figured out. Maybe still a lot don't, but all they talked about was making Facebook pages for their clients and then looking at how many clicks they got, or how many likes they got their client. That was the metric of success. We got our client 1 million likes.
Yeah. I still get emails from potential clients every day saying, "Hey, Mike, can you generate X amount of Twitter followers for us?" Or, "We would love to have 10,000 Facebook fans." And the thing I always go back and say is no. How about we build you a smaller, far more engaged, far more relevant and targeted audience that's actually going to make things happen? An audience that you can speak to, build the trust, add value to, and then when the time is right, we use them to the benefit of your business to grow it. Now, I've been doing this little series of videos recently, just 1 minute videos, and I try and get as much information and kind of practical tips over. And that was one of the topics 2 weeks ago, was building the right type of social media audience. But also, you cannot leave that audience in social media. And by that, I mean that you don't own your Twitter followers. You don't know much about them. Same goes for Facebook, Instagram, particularly new, I was going to say emerging, but new-ish platforms like Snapchat. You don't really know who those people are. So you need to try and somehow gain a bit of ownership of them. So a fantastic way to do that is, have them linking through to the website to download some further great content. And in order to get that content, you need to give the email address.
Right.
And then you can start to do everything I was talking about earlier with the social retargeting. But you've got a way to get in front of them through their email inboxes. And as long as you do not abuse that privilege of having their email address, then that should work wonders for you.
Yeah.
So, carry on.
It's hard with some businesses. I remember when I used to do websites for clients, and that some of them were government websites where it was really just a brand play. There was no call to action. It's like if you're doing a website for Coca-Cola or Nike, you go, well, okay, I can't really track, unless we're doing e-commerce sales, you can't really track how many sales you got through Facebook. So that is a little bit tougher to manage. But when it's a SaaS product or something where you can actually track like people signed up for my app through Facebook.
Yeah.
So measurable.
You're absolutely right there. So if you're a big brand, or you're a big fast moving consumer good, Nike, whatever, Apple, they tend to just want to know that people are getting the message, they're getting the brand affinity, and they've got that brand recall. And that is much tougher to measure. You're right. However, when it comes to SaaS, when it comes to a technology product, it's all about leads. We want to be generating those MQLs, the marketing qualified leads, and we have to measure those. They are what the sales team are going to go and follow up on. And if the quality of those isn't high enough, they're going to be knocking your door and saying, Mike, why are these leads not good enough? Where did you source these? So on and so forth. And that is 100% measurable and should be measurable. And I think that's something that's really interesting. I actually spent last year as the marketing director of a SaaS company here in Scotland, and I took a year out to go and do that. It was fantastic. And one of the big things there was the trying to marry the marketing and the sales teams to make sure we were on the same ball, on the same page, and kind of being friends, because I've seen it a lot in organizations where ridiculously the marketing teams and the sales teams are in complete silos, and particularly in a SaaS company, that just cannot be the case.
Absolutely, yeah, and we've talked about that a little bit before on the show, where we're primarily marketing driven here at Proposify, but we just hired our first 2 salespeople in the last 8 months or so, Amy and Ryan. It's been interesting trying to just get everybody on the same page. It's been easy because we're small, but if you're a bigger, more established company, your sales team they just want to close the deal, and they're upset with marketing because the leads are weak, or there's not enough leads, and they just kind of blame each other. There's that sort of conflict between them.
They do, and it goes back and forth, and it can be like kids arguing in the school playground, But you're lucky in that you're fairly early in that cycle, so you can establish the relationship early and the culture early. But yeah, I mean, trying to do that in well-established, long-standing businesses must be very difficult.
And some of that comes down to hiring, which I think is a really good segue, because one thing that you've spoken about is the difference between hard skills and soft skills for people on your marketing team. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I explored this heavily last year to build some data for a talk I delivered at the Turing Festival. And I went to inbound.org, obviously a phenomenal forum and kind of chat place for great marketers. And I said to them, what do you feel like the top skills are for marketers? And people started to say, well, Mike, do you mean hard skills or soft skills? So a hard skill would be, I'm really great at Facebook advertising. I know how to work the system. I know how to construct great copy, and I know how to measure it. Whereas a soft skill would be something like adaptability. So if you take the typical person that works in a marketing agency, an ad agency, whatever it may be, as long as it's not niche, they'll tend to have various clients from various sectors or industries. Could be SaaS, could be a consumer goods. So one of the big skills as a marketer has to be able to adapt to the needs of that company. They need to learn about that industry, and they have to be really flexible. And getting the right blend of soft skills versus hard skills can be very difficult. Not everybody has them all, of course. So you need to build the right type of people. And Rand Fishkin, about 3 years ago, created the T-shaped marketer, which is a phenomenal thing. Everybody listening to this, if they haven't heard of it, should look it up. And effectively, it is a T-shape. So across the top bar of the T, you have all marketing skills, hard skills. So it could be SEO, PPC, content writing, data and analysis, inbound. But then the downward stroke of the T is 1 to 2 areas that person tends to be specialized in. So they might be an SEO specialist, but what you want them to have is a strong understanding of everything across the top, because then you get this rounded person, this rounded marketer who can be really valuable when you start to place them with other types of Ts.
Right. But so a big part of my talk, you could be kind of good at everything, but maybe link building, everything about link building, but you also know a little bit about content and a little bit about analytics and that kind of thing.
Exactly. So you're the guy on the team that when there's something link building related, you're the go-to. You're the go-to for the clients, or you're the go-to internally. But also your colleagues and your clients also have a comfort that you understand the other areas of marketing.
Right.
With the T-shape from Rand, it's very much hard skill based. I'd like to try and adapt that into some other fancy diagram, which is like a combination of the hard skills and the soft skills. So I spoke about adaptability. I think empathy is a huge one. At the end of the day, we're marketing to humans. We are humans. We need to understand their needs. We need to understand who we're marketing to. We're probably trying to solve problems for them. Either our clients or the client's product solves a problem. So we need to understand how good it can feel when we solve someone's problem in their job or in their day-to-day lives. And also, I think there's a kind of resilience required to be a successful marketer. You need to have a thick skin because it's a very difficult job. Things change all the time. If you take search engine optimization, there's all these people who worked as SEOs, and then Google made these major tweaks, Panda and Penguin, to the Google algorithm, and it basically blew the old way of doing SEO out of the water. And people either adapted or they didn't, and they faded away. Things are changing all the time. Every day, if you read certain blogs, you'll see, here's a new technique, here's a new tool, you need to know about this. And so you need to be kind of resilient enough to deal with that. But also, it can just be tough because clients always have huge expectations of you. You're the experts, they're paying the money, and it can be hard because it doesn't always go well. Now, when it doesn't go well, one of the biggest things you have to be able to do is say, here's why it didn't go well. And again, we're going back to data here. A lot of that can say, we know this didn't work, but here's the data that tells us how we're going to tweak this and make it better for you in the future.
And that, what you just described, is customer service, which is a soft skill. It's like, hire the marketer who used to, before they got into marketing, they worked retail or they worked at a fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
Because they're going to understand customer service and know how to deal with upset clients, maybe more so than somebody who hasn't, right?
Yeah, so they'll understand clients, but they'll also more than likely have a good understanding of the people the clients are marketing to as well, depending on their background. And actually, one of the 1-minute videos I was talking about earlier, I just published it about 2 hours ago, is 5 tips for building great client relationships.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's just from years of experience. None of it's groundbreaking, but I think that those 5 things, if you focus on those, you're going to be good. And actually, it's not all just from our perspective. The client, it should be a partnership. So the client has to have certain things in place. For example, we work pretty long, crazy hours a lot of the time in marketing. And having an understanding with the client of when you're going to be able to respond to them and when you're going to get back to them and when that report's going to be with them is really important because it makes for a more healthy relationship. I think that one of the biggest things with anything really is setting realistic expectations.
Right.
So don't say you're going to have a piece of work done if you're not. And actually, I've always found in nearly 11 years that clients tend to be willing to afford you more time than you think. So take advantage of that.
It's better you always lead with, what's the expression? Under promise, over deliver. So it's better to say, actually, I'm going to need 3 weeks to do this, and the client be like, holy shit, that's a long, like, you really need that much time? Like, sorry, I need that much time. And then do it in 2 weeks. Yeah. And they'll be blown away, right? Yeah.
It's an easy thing to do, and it might seem kind of misleading in some ways, but by saying 3 weeks, and genuinely there's times where you think this is going to take me that time, and I don't know, you just manage to get up a great head of steam and the things fall into place and you deliver something early, and you're never going to have negativity about that. But unless you say give me 3 weeks.
But if you say
give me 3 weeks and you do it in 2 days, they're going to be like, well, wait a minute, have you rushed it? So there's a balance.
Yeah, and if you say 1 week because that's going to make the client happy then and there, but then it takes 2 weeks, the client's pissed. And really, in both those scenarios, you took the exact same amount of time. You took 2 weeks, but in one scenario, the client's pissed, and the other one, the client's happy.
Correct. It's all perception and expectation, and just very firmly stating up front, here's what we're going to deliver, and here's when it's going to be. And the other thing is having a visible plan. Again, it sounds obvious, but a lot of marketers that I've worked with in the past are like, oh yeah, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, it's all in my head. We're going to do this for you. And clients are never comfortable with that. They want to see a timeline. They want to see a project plan. It doesn't have to be war and peace, but it should be visible to them. It can be online. Hell, if they need a piece of paper, print it off and send it to them. Just do it. It's really important.
Yeah. One thing that you talked about earlier was empathy, and I think that kind of warrants going deeper with that a little bit. One of the things that we do here with my company is, like probably most tech companies nowadays have Slack, right? And you have different channels for marketing, et cetera. So people who are building our product, who are more into the weeds of like code and design, they don't always see what's happening with marketing, and vice versa. The marketing team doesn't always know what's happening with product. So we use Slack a lot to keep everybody on the same page, seeing what's going on. And one of the things that we do is we share customer feedback with all of the teams. So like what you said before about, sometimes marketers can get too caught up in data and just look at numbers on a graph and not realize those numbers, those little dots, are actual people with like families, and they just had a shitty day and they've got all these things going on in their lives. So when somebody actually takes the time to like tweet out and say, I love that blog post you guys wrote, that really helped me with my business, or I love your product, it helped me do whatever, share that with your whole team, because then they're all going to be like, oh yeah, what we're doing actually is for people.
Yeah, 100%. And you nailed it. We get too caught up in data and forget that there's people driving that. And when you get that piece of feedback as a business, especially when it comes in via social and a nice public forum, it does make you feel absolutely fantastic. And you should be sharing that. I think, you've got Net Promoter Score, for example, which a lot of SaaS companies use to gauge their customer happiness. And really that comes down to a number, a piece of data at the basic level. But really digging deeper and speaking to customers is a huge advantage in learning and how you're going to push your product forward, push your service forward. One of the biggest problems with a lot of tech startups is that they don't understand who the customer is. They might not have any customers, but go and try and spend time with people you think are your customers and interview them. And that goes the same for an agency or someone who's delivering marketing services. Even if it's a client, you need to get access to those clients' customers and people that use their products and their services and really drill into them. It comes down to persona building. It's an age-old marketing kind of piece of work you must do, but it tends to get forgotten. And I actually think that paid and things like that gives us a license just to go for it and start marketing to who we think we should be marketing to. But a high percentage of the time, you'll start to learn that, damn it, these are not the people that are going to buy our product. And if you don't realize that early enough, you can be in big trouble.
Mike, it's been awesome having you on the show. People need to check out velocitydigital.co.uk, and you've also got a podcast and a blog as well that people should check out.
That's right. You can access all of the blogs and the videos and the podcast via velocitydigital.co.uk. The podcast will be coming back. In fact, Kyle, I want to get you on it soon. It's had a bit of a hiatus, but I'm going to be doing an interview format like you've been doing. And so it's all coming back. And you can check me out on Twitter at Mike_McGrail, and I'm the same everywhere else, Snapchat, Instagram. So I hope to see you guys.
I just followed you on Snap, actually.
I noticed that, and I do feel like I should snap me speaking to you, and it's an essential thing.
Let's do it right here.
Let's do it right now. Okay, I'm gonna selfie me with you. Well, this might be. Oh,
this is so meta.
This is real world action. Physically can't do it in my office.
We'll do it. We'll do it after the recording, maybe.
We'll do it after, because we've just disrupted the end of the show, trying to do something physical there.
Mike McGrail, thank you so much for being on the show. People need to check you out.
Thanks very much for having me. I really enjoyed the chat.
Thanks for consuming this interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was valuable to you. If it was, I'd appreciate it if you share it, rate it, review it on the iTunes store, and make sure you subscribe so you get more content like this every week. I'll see you next time.